Roger, there's any number of plants that we can root from cuttings, things like this begonia or coleus.
Well, I know that some simple things to root are forsythia and privet.
Right.
But we also have plants like rhododendron,
They're more difficult.
ilex glabra,
Right. The inkberry holly is a little bit more difficult than that.
and the red and yellow dogwoods.
They're fairly easy. Here's a little terrarium that I put together from a salad green box that I got in the supermarket.
We're in the middle of this great greenhouse and you're using the salad tray to grow your plants in.
Well, it seemed like a great way to reuse it, and it's something special. Now we can go to something a little bit, more elaborate, like this tray that I put together for a class I was teaching, where we have some woody plants, arborvitae and chamaecyparis, cephalotaxis, boxwood. This little rhododendron here already has roots.
Huh.
We add water carefully with a fog mister here.
Right. And then once you put the cover back on, you have a closed system, right?
Right, just a terrarium.
So that'll hold all the humidity in there.
Yeah, that's important. You don't need a whole greenhouse, just a mini greenhouse. I thought we'd start with taking a leaf cutting off of this begonia. We're going to be able to make 5 or 6 cuttings off one leaf.
Oh, that's
I'm going to harvest it right down in here so as to not leave a dead stem. Take that leaf, cut most of the stem off and throw it away so that we have no stem. Roger, we're going to cut this begonia leaf like a pie. We'll leave a vein in each cutting, and we can get half a dozen cuttings maybe out of this. So one cutting right here, and we'll tease that out. There. Another cutting using this vein. We'll trim the top. Another cutting with this vein. And here. We can even do one right here. Our next step is to use this root-inducing hormone. It helps the cuttings to root, speeds up the rooting process. We just put a little bit out here. We want to keep it clean, so we want to cover it up, keep it from being contaminated. Next, we're going to dip this into the root-inducing hormone, knock off any surplus. Dibble, again, we don't want to wipe that hormone off, and we keep doing this process, and in about a month, we'll have roots on those cuttings.
Now you're just sticking those in peat moss and perlite.
Right, just peat and perlite, and then we'll add some water, some moisture to keep them moist. We want the perlite there for porosity and the peat moss for holding moisture. We want to maintain the humidity, so we cover it up.
Seal it right over.
Seal it right up.
Pretty simple solution.
Pretty simple. Leaf cuttings of begonia were easy. Now let's bring it up a notch and we'll do stem cuttings.
Well, let's try this forsythia.
Start by making an angled cut at the bottom.
It's going to be at a sharp angle like that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then a square cut just above the bud.
Bud's right there.
Yeah, square cut.
Square cut. There you go.
This is a little bit more difficult to propagate than the begonia, so we're going to use a stronger concentration of the hormone. Knock off any extra. We'll also dibble a hole and push this down in. We have the angle because it is easier to push in. It also helps us keep track of which end is up.
And that's important to have the up end
The up end should always be
up.
up. The end towards the roots should always be down.
Okay.
We're using a different medium here. We're using sand and perlite because of the added porosity. It drains better.
Now, one critical step to the success of the cuttings is a heat mat. You just plug it in and it heats up to about 70 degrees and put the tray right on top of it.
That's it.
And that'll cause those roots to grow even better.
It's really critical, important to do that. Now we water this, and then we put the dome on top.
Now there are some plants that we can't get to root from cuttings.
That's right, those we have to graft. Let me show you this apple. Grafting is where we put 2 different plants together, attaching one to the other. Here we have an older rootstock and our new plant, the scion. We've attached this to this.
So you can see where it's all grown and calloused together, and you can see how big this apple branch got.
Let me show you how we do it. Here's an apple seedling. We're going to use it as our rootstock. I'm going to cut it off right about here. Now I'm going to use a grafting knife. Note that this side is flat, this side is beveled, just like a plane. And I'm going to split the stem with that. Going right down through the center, or as close as I can get. Well, that's it for the rootstock. Now we're going to cut into our new plant, the scion. One side is cut, we'll cut the other side and make a wedge. Get that right. Wedge like that, both sides cut. And we're going to trim the top off so that we've got about 3 or 4 buds. And we'll insert this wedge scion into our rootstock like so. So that the cambium layer, that's the layer of cells just under the bark, and that has to line up with the rootstock cambium and the scion cambium. And you look at this side and you see how it's lined up. And if I turn this, and you look over here, you'll see how it's not lined up. So we can only match one side.
Aligning the cambium ensures the 2 parts will grow together.
That's right. Now we secure the graft union with a rubber band. I want to do it tight, but not so tight that it girdles it. Go down like a barber pole, and then I fasten that with my thumb like that. Now we seal our graft union with this paraffin wax. Comes on a roll. You could use regular wax that you got from the hardware store. And we just wrap it around to seal it all in and keep it nice and humid in there.
So that way it can't dry out.
Right. There it is, finished. Take that home, put it on a windowsill, and by spring, it'll be ready to plant outside.
Thanks so much, Jack, for sharing those simple techniques that will let us reproduce the plants that we love.